For those of you that are new here, I am Nancy from Nancy Inspired, and I have a gift that I call soul telepathy. When I was given this gift, I was told I was being given the gift of telepathy in order to elevate human consciousness one person at a time. And I did not get telepathy like per se. But then when I started I was already doing readings for people, but all of a sudden I was able to hear what their soul was trying to tell them. And so that's why I call it soul telepathy. When I do one-on-one readings, it's like individual, what your soul's telling you. When I do collectives like this, it is more about what is the collective messaging for everybody for this week, for this frame of time, including myself. So that is me in a nutshell. And you're right, Ginger, nervousness means we care. I used to run a dance troupe, a performance art troupe, and I used to say, the day you're not nervous going on stage is the day you should probably quit because it means you don't care anymore. So it is true. I'm always a little nervous. I mean, I'm always excited to be here because I really genuinely love you all and I love this time. And this is honestly my favorite time of the week. This is what I look forward to every week. So, but I am always a little nervous. So, all right, before we get started, I'm just going to ask for permission. So, can I, man, shall I do a reading a collective reading for my Insight Timer friends and family, both those that are here and those that listen later? Getting a clear yes. Is there any reason why I shouldn't at this moment in time? Can already feel it switching. No, there's no reason why I shouldn't at this moment in time. Then I'm going to ask that everybody's intuition be raised to the highest level that they can accommodate with at this moment in time. Allow their souls to speak freely and clearly for everyone's highest and best good. All right, my dears. My sage went out, but that's okay. I felt like when I first started, I felt like I just needed to cleanse and clear the air. So I did, and I did a little clearing for myself before. All right, so I've got permission. Hello, Elsa. Hello, beautiful Elsa. Hello, Joe. Hello, Ederne. Hello, Anna. Wonderful. Welcome, everybody. And those that are new here, welcome. And all my familiar friends, welcome. All right, we're going to jump right in. I'm going to take a sip of water. And jump right in. What is the messaging that I hear for today? All right. It was like a bunch of messages all at once. Bleh. It's like, okay, one at a time. What's the most important message? Because I kind of got take your time was the first thing. And then I heard one step at a time. So it's like, okay, these are lovely cliches, but what are we talking about? Okay. So what I'm hearing is clarity, that we as human beings, as people, are, okay, I'm hearing we as human beings are caught up in productivity. We are caught up in doing things that we feel are productive and valuable. And what we measure as valuable is, what I'm hearing is a little askew, which I can totally understand that. That what we measure as valuable is a little bit askew. So we tend to prioritize things that make us money or bring us status or bring us engagement is the word I'm hearing. Things that bring us engagement, maybe connection, maybe relationship, I'm not sure, as opposed to valuing things that bring us clarity and focus. So, okay, so what I'm hearing is why many people have trouble sitting still and being silent and taking time by themselves or even in meditation is because it doesn't feel like valuable time. It doesn't have a tangible outcome. It doesn't have a monetary value. It doesn't have a sense of productivity to it. But what I'm hearing is that we need to slow down and take some time to work on our clarity and our focus in order for us to be able to connect to higher vibration as well as hear messaging. Because messaging is all around us all the time, connection is around us all the time. And when we are constantly focused on productivity and quantitative value is the word that I just heard, when we're constantly focusing on quantitative value versus qualitative time and focus, we're being asked this week to take some time to okay, now I understand. It's not one step in front of the other. I'm here to tell you a story. Of course I am. So those of you that are new here, I'm often, one of the ways that I receive messages is I hear words, images, whatever, and it's almost like I'm translating from, I believe it's coming from you mixed with some divine messaging. And lots of times I'm told, tell them this, and I'm given like a drop in the bucket story from my own life that is relevant. So this is, I understand now why I was seeing one step at a time. So I used to do Tai Chi, and it's something that I really, really value. Unfortunately, my ex-husband and the emotions around that kind of have tainted me from wanting to do Tai Chi. However, when I did Tai Chi, it was a very beautiful and valuable experience. And I did a lot of different like extra workshops where I did some meditation workshops and whatnot. And there was one workshop that I did that was a walking meditation workshop. And now you only know me from lives, but I tend to move quickly. My brain moves quickly. Definitely ADHD, is how I work. And moving slowly is, and I mean, I found doing Tai Chi, I could move slowly, but we did a walking meditation one time, and it was very difficult. It was a Taoist walking meditation, and the focus and the instructor, you place sort of one foot in front of the other in very slowly and methodically, and becoming very, very aware of every footstep, every like and how your heel goes down to how your toes connect, and every step and how you shift your weight, everything becomes like super focused. And at first, doing that exercise, I was just like, I hate this. I just could not slow myself down enough, especially to walk in that methodical way. Yet, when I kind of not forced myself, I wouldn't say that, but when I immersed myself, we'll say that. When I immersed myself into that experience, and I gave myself permission to be frustrated, I gave myself permission to recognize my need to go quickly, right? Once I actually allowed myself to feel frustrated, to do what I need to do, but allowed myself to really slow down and feel every step, I remember like a profound change coming over my body, and a profound deepening of the experience and the awareness of my physical being. I have not thought about that experience in a long time. That was probably 25 years ago, something like that. I have not thought about that in a long time, but I was just given that little analogy. So, and I think the reason why I was told to tell you that story is because it felt like an excruciating process in the beginning. It was so slow, and it was so, and my brain just went into all different, like, why do we have to do this? Why does it be so, and it was like almost like the slower I tried to go, the faster my brain started to go. However, one of the shifts happened when I gave myself permission to be exactly where I was, and to be okay with being frustrated, to be okay with being agitated, and just allowed myself to experience all of that. And then I slowed down. So I am hearing this week that one of the key messages, one of the things that's really important, is that we need to slow down and allow ourselves to have that stillness and that time, so that we can develop a clarity in our focus, that we can go inside, that we can internalize and integrate messaging. by giving that space and time. And I'm hearing that even though there's resistance to going slow, there's resistance to sitting still, there's resistance to taking our time, that it's important to honor that resistance. It's important to accept the challenges of that time, of that resistance and that stillness, but allow ourselves to be slow. Allow yourself to be connected. Allow yourself to take that time and internalize every bit of information. Because when I was doing that walking, this is what I'm hearing to add to that. Okay, so when I was doing that walking, at first, all I could focus on was how to move slowly. Then, as I progressed, I became super aware of where my feet were stepping, how my feet were stepping, how my balance shifted. I started to notice that I seemed to be stronger and more balanced on my right side than my left side. And I became super aware of myself and also of my surroundings just by slowing down. So that's what I'm hearing as our first bit of messaging today is slow down. I'm just going to look at the chat here. It's weird how excruciating that could initially be, slowing down. 100%. Ginger. Alicia, beautiful message. Totally makes sense at this Taurus full moon time. Time for us to ground in and fully align ourselves. Wonderful. I appreciate that, Alicia. I would love to have more sort of celestial knowledge, what's happening with the moon and the planets and whatnot. And I find I read it and it's like it goes in one ear and out the other. So I just have to rely on my on my messaging. But I absolutely appreciate if anybody has additional, like if this messaging resonates and makes sense and you want to add something in the chat, by all means, please do so. I don't always see it as I'm getting the messaging, but I always go back and read it as well. Absolutely. Wonderful reminder. And it reminds me of that time and it makes me feel like maybe I should get over myself and go back to Tai Chi. It's a funny story. This isn't I'm hearing to tell you a story. This is just a funny story. Or who knows, sometimes when I start telling a story, I find out later why I'm telling it. But when I was pregnant and I was very swollen and very, just very unhappy, I was very uncomfortable. My husband wasn't super supportive and I was working full time. I was taking care of all the house stuff at the time. This was with my daughter, and I was complaining that my feet hurt and I had a headache and I was tired, and his response was that I should do 20 Danyus, which is like a Tai Chi exercise. And I thought, I just like exploded. And I was like, I'll tell you what I should do, and full on hormonal pregnancy. But yeah, after that, I was like, I'm never doing another Danyu again. But now, 25 years later, I'm thinking, maybe doing some Danyus and Tai Chi is a good idea. All right, slow down. Slow down. And I just heard, okay, to add to that, I'm talking about Tai Chi. It's been years since I've done Tai Chi, but any practice that encourages you to slow down. So yoga, meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong. I'm sure there's a number of others that I'm not recognizing and honoring right now. But any practice that encourages you to slow down and just feel is something to look for this week. Look for opportunities to do that. I know there's lots on Insight Timer, and I'm sure we can find it other ways too, but yeah, look for that. Okay. That's right, Alicia. Please do. Filling our cup is important so we can serve others. 100% it is. 100%. All right. Next bit of messaging. Let's drink a glass of water before. What am I hearing? Okay. Okay, so what I just got as an image was I was just at a friend's farm yesterday and all the dead leaves that are around. And she was kind of saying, oh, I gotta clean these up. And I was there with Aurora, of course, my granddaughter, and she was lifting up leaves and finding ladybugs underneath the leaves. And that's when my friend was like, oh, right, you know what? I think we're not supposed to, do all the tidy up right now because of all the ladybugs and the different critters that aren't quite moving around yet. And we take away their homes. What I'm hearing is sometimes out of things that seem dead and decayed, right, for lack of a better word. I mean, metaphorically, when things feel like they've come to their full term, they're no longer serving you, they come to their full term. Sometimes it's okay to just take a moment before you just like quickly throw it away and move on, to just, uncover a little bit and recognize that there's beautiful life that happens sometimes out of the darkest times. I just got a really funny image that just came into my mind. So I actually printed a picture of this, and it's in my bathroom. I was sitting and meditating one time outside. I was in the forest in BC, and I was sitting and meditating, and where I was sitting, there was kind of a dead log beside me, and very, ripe with, decay, and but in a forest, decay smells beautiful. So I'm smelling all the beautiful smells, and I look, and in this like, decaying log are these tiny little mushrooms, these like cute little mushrooms. And I was really hit at that moment that, mushrooms grow in decay, and, fecal matter and whatnot. Mushrooms grow out of decaying things. And so I took a picture of it, and I have it in my bathroom, just as a reminder, which is exactly what I'm hearing right now as a reminder, is that sometimes out of those things that seem like they're no longer serving us, they're gone, decaying, they're difficult, they're not pretty, sometimes out of those things, that's when new life comes. And what I'm hearing to tell you, I don't really know much about mushrooms, but I'm hearing that mushrooms or fungi are designed as cleansers, and that mushrooms have the ability to cleanse what's around them. If anyone can verify that, that's what I'm hearing, and that they've been purposely designed that way. And I'm also hearing we haven't even begun to tap into the power of fungi and mushrooms for their ability to cleanse. Both internal and external is what I'm hearing. Anyway, this is a whole side tangent on mushrooms. I don't know much about mushrooms. I like mushrooms, but I'm hearing they're designed as cleansers, and they themselves grow out of decay the best. And so when things are ending, when things are no longer serving us, when things are changing for ourselves, recognize that out of that difficulty, out of that decay, out of that, something that's ended, a beautiful cleanser can be born. A beautiful, something beautiful is what I'm hearing. Something beautiful, because I was given the ladybug again. Something beautiful can be born out of that. So if you are in a time of something changing, something ending, look for that new growth, that cleansing, healing, new growth. Oh, foined mushrooms? Is that how I say it, Kate? Foined mushrooms on Chernobyl, taking in radiation. Ooh, I'm going to have to look that up. Yeah, I was getting that we haven't even begun to tap into, found mushrooms on Chernobyl. Interesting. Okay. I thought you meant that was the name of the mushroom. Yeah, I was getting that we haven't even begun to unlock the power of mushrooms and some of the nature that's been given to us, which is the next bit of messaging. So, all right, I'm hearing that, and I've heard this before through some of my work I've done with some of the indigenous groups that I've worked with, here, that every single part of nature, everything we need has been provided for us in nature. Everything we need has been provided for us in nature. And what I'm hearing right now is don't underestimate that. And so, yes, different medicines, and like we just talked about the mushrooms, like cleansing and clearing, but also, Okay, I'm hearing the words time-space integration is also available to us through nature. Okay, I understand. All right, so interesting. I've had this thought a number of times, just randomly walking in forests, especially when I see squirrels. So this is what I've been given just now. Squirrels just move so fast. If you've ever had a chance to watch squirrels just move so fast, and they're just like here and there and everywhere and run, and they just move so fast. And I've often wondered if they were looking at us, if we'd look like we were moving really slowly to them, and how do they perceive the world? And so this is what I was just given. Trees, plants grow very slowly. We can't see them growing yet. If you take pictures over time or do time lapse, you can see them growing. So what I'm hearing is, okay, this is interesting. We understand, or we are being told to understand that time and space is not as linear as we think it is, and that time can be different depending upon how we perceive it. And nature can teach us that, is what I'm hearing. So if you look at a squirrel and how fast a squirrel is moving, their perception of time and what they do and what they can accomplish in that time, or slow down or whatever, and then you look at a tree or a plant, their perception of time is going to be very different again from our perception of time. And so what I'm hearing is use nature as a teacher if we are struggling with understanding that time is not linear, which I admit sometimes I feel like I have that understanding, and other times I feel like I don't have that understanding. But what I'm hearing is that nature has given us everything we need, including the ability to understand how time moves differently depending upon our perception. And that when we look at a squirrel running around really fast, that squirrel's perception of time is going to be very different than our perception of time. Also, if you look at certain insects, that's what I'm hearing, certain insects that have a life cycle of 24 hours. I actually don't know for sure, but that's what I'm hearing. So insects that have a life cycle of 24 hours, that's an entire day that is their lifespan. So every moment has a lot more, okay, I just heard to rephrase my word, perceived relevance. Every moment for that insect has more perceived relevance because they have less moments. However, just because we perceive that we have lots of moments, every moment is just as relevant. Wow, this is kind of like a lot of esoteric stuff happening here. So using nature to help us understand time and how time is not necessarily linear, and how time passes in different ways, and understanding the importance of every moment, that every moment of every day has some significance. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be doing something every moment, because initially the first part of the messaging was slow down and allow yourself to focus and become in tune. But what it's talking about is the relevance, that every moment is a gift. If we look at a perception of time from a particular insect, let's say, that only has 24 hours, because I am hearing that. I don't know which insects only have 24 hours. Mosquitoes, maybe? I don't know. Every moment is important. They have to lay eggs and mate or eat or whatever they have to do in that little span of 24 hours. And so every moment counts. Every moment's important. And that's the one lesson that we can take from nature, that every moment counts and every moment is important. Whether we choose to rest or whether we choose to do something, whether we choose to slow down and meditate, every moment is important. The other thing to recognize when we're struggling with understanding how time, the perception of time is not always as we conceptualize it, to recognize how maybe a tree perceives time, how a squirrel perceives time, how something that lives a really long time might perceive time, would be very different than how we perceive time. And so understanding that time is relative is what I'm hearing. It's interesting because I know that I know that, but I don't know that. So I get these messages about time being not linear, and I admit I struggle a little. I struggle a little with that. So if anyone has any insight, you're please welcome to put it into the chat. Okay, dragonflies, Angela, Anna, dragonflies only live 24 hours. I wasn't sure what. I thought maybe mosquitoes. Maybe that was wishful thinking. And hello, Lori. Hola. All right, and a little bit more about mushrooms. Mushrooms connect trees through a network called the mycorrhizal network. I'm gonna have to look that up. Mycorrhizal network. Oh, cool. So I definitely heard that we have barely unlocked the power of mushrooms. Alicia, they have lots of brain and immunity protection. Oh, you know what? There's a lady at the farmer's market that sells mushroom tinctures. I've never tried it. I've never really talked to her about it, but I've seen her booth. Maybe I will have to go there. Okay. Moving on to the next bit of messaging for today. Okay. So, I got a couple images. So what I got was like kind of like the fast forward time lapse of like, you know, buds opening, tadpoles swimming, like all these different things. All this new life. Spring is a time of new life, of renewal. It's especially poignant where I live in Canada, that there is, you know, you can see as you go for a walk, you know, all the branches that look like they're dead, and then there's tiny little buds on them. Or being out at my friend's farm, and we saw a whole bunch of frogs in the Northern Cree that would be in this area, Cree people. This is called the frog moon, and it's because, you know, the frogs are starting to come out. And being at the farm, I saw a lot of the frogs. So, and then the next thing I saw was, and again, this is an Indigenous teaching that was taught to me. I'm not Indigenous, so I'm not, you know, sharing teachings. It's just something that was taught to me, and I was given this image just now to remember. Is I was told that the grass teaches us resilience, because when it gets stomped down, right, and patted down, you know, by many feet, then, you know, a little while later, it springs back up again, and it teaches us resilience. So what I'm hearing is that this is a time to be aware of our own resilience and our own rebirth. That we have all, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what you've gone through, we have all gone through periods of being tromped down and having to be resilient, and then a rebirth. How do we come out of that? How do we, and sometimes they're little like day-to-day things. I just heard even when we sleep and wake up, that's a little, you know, death, rebirth, you know, something ended, and then now we are renewed. We become resilient. We wake up, hopefully, resilient. Hopefully we wake up better than we went to sleep the night before. But we are constantly being reminded of that cycle of, you know, being, you know, trod on, or things being challenging, and then springing up and being resilient, and recognizing that there is a constant cycle of rebirth within ourselves. Sorry. There's a constant rebirth within ourselves going on all the time. And again, when we look to nature right now in the spring, especially if you live in a place that has really defined seasons that way, we've got constant evidence of that rebirth, of that reawakening, of that continuation. And so I'm just hearing that this coming week, as things are going on, remind yourself of all the little rebirths that you've had, you know. And I just heard, no matter who you are, they're too numerable to count, that will call to mind the harder things, the things that we've sprung back from that were more difficult, where we felt like metamorphosis happening. But on every given day, we are being given experiences where we need to spring back up like the grass, and to recognize our own resiliency and our ability to cycle through that, and that is something that we should be incredibly grateful for, that we have that ability, that when something is not going the way we need it to, or something needs to change, that we have the ability to cycle that, to spring back up, to become resilient like the grass. I think the teaching that I heard had to do with powwow time, or like dancing, and that the dancers kind of tromp down the grass, and then once it's all done, the grass springs back up, and that's a lesson. I don't quote me. I am not. It's just a teaching is being recalled to my mind. So if anyone has any concrete knowledge or teaching on that, feel free to put it in the chat. But that's what I'm hearing, is to remind ourselves that we are resilient like the grass. We can spring back up. Once the tromping is done, we can spring back up, and that symbols of renewal everywhere right now remind us of our own ability to be able to spring back up. All right, sip of tea. Blueberry ginseng tea today. All right, next bit of messaging. All right, simple messaging is, again, asking us not to underestimate the power of gratitude. That when we allow ourselves to be in a place of gratitude, that's when magic happens. That's when our thoughts reframe, our body shifts. I'm actually getting images of like almost like DNA, like restructuring itself, that it actually changes our genetic structure when we put ourselves in places of gratitude. And that especially when we're being faced with challenging times, putting ourselves in places of gratitude can actually shift the paradigm, is what I'm hearing. So over this next week, allow yourself to really settle in to moments of gratitude, even if it's just a little snapshot moment of gratitude, that, oh, I'm really grateful for this, or this is a beautiful sunny day, or the rain that's falling is beautiful for the plants, whatever it is. But it, as much as possible, allow yourself to shift into that attitude of gratitude. I just heard, it may seem simple, but it's probably the most profound thing you can do for yourself. So what I'm hearing right now is gratitude and love. Existing from a place of gratitude and love are the most profound, healing, rejuvenating, resiliency creating things that you can do for yourself. So if you're having trouble springing back up like the grass, by focusing on gratitude, by focusing on love, wherever that can exist for you, is the way to connect to that. It's tricky because sometimes if I'm feeling frustrated, the last thing I'm feeling is love, But I'm here to tell you a story. I am also an administrator of a school, and I often deal with parents that sometimes are being unreasonable, and they come at you angry and guns blazing. And people often ask me how I'm so successful with those parents, because that is one of the things I'm really good at, is dealing with angry parents. And part of it is, I think I use this gift in that I tap in and figure out what is it that they are, genuinely, like what is it that they're upset about or afraid of or whatever, and then I'm able to kind of help them, so that we can be allies. But the other thing, and this is the part that I'm supposed to tell you, is that I view everyone as someone's child. And so all children are loved to some degree, right? We have some parents that are dealing with their own traumas and health issues or whatnot that make it challenging for them. But children are hardwired to be loved. We are hardwired to love children, to want to protect children, to want to nurture children. So when I am struggling with somebody and I'm angry with somebody or feeling, affronted by somebody, I always look at them as somebody's child, and I think this is somebody's son, even though they're like in their 50s. This is somebody's son, and this is, just like a child. This person needs love, guidance, care, nurturing, whatever it is, and it allows me to then take a step back. So we have the capacity on some level to love everyone. Now, that does not mean that you have to hang out with and spend time with people that are difficult or toxic or challenging, because you have the right to protect yourself and your own energy and not be around that. I try very hard to practice that. However, if you do have to have an altercation, if you deal with that altercation from a place of love by viewing them as somebody's child, you will probably be more successful in that exchange than if you were to come at as, I need to be powerful, I need to be right, I need to be whatever. We don't usually confront children with I need to be powerful, we automatically feel a sense of power, because they're small. And so if you come at them from a place of love and nurturing and care and respect, your challenge, your altercation is going to more likely turn out positive. So that's what I'm hearing. Don't underestimate the power of gratitude and love. Those are the absolute primary forces on this planet, and within ourselves. We are hardwired to connect to love and gratitude when we can. All right, I'm just going to check the chat. So true, I'm in Iceland. Iceland's another place I've always wanted to go, Harpa. In Iceland, and the spring is here, and often so feel thankful at this time. Yes, to see the grass with leaves on the trees. It's beautiful to see the life coming back. We had a beautiful rain last night, and it's warmer today, so I'm looking forward to going for a walk later, and I know everything's going to just open up. Alicia, so true. You can heal anything and attract all with the vibration of gratitude. 100%. You can even have gratitude for a life you don't have now but truly want, just by feeling the feelings. By feeling the feelings, giving gratitude. Interesting. Alicia, I love that. So it's kind of like like a growth mindset sort of idea, that I can feel grateful for all the things I'm going to have, even if I don't have them yet. And embodying that life before you have it, and then the universe delivers. This is how I learned to walk and talk again after your near-death experience. Wow, beautiful. Alicia, thank you for sharing. So just to clarify, because I feel like this is important information, you visualized with gratitude your healing for when you were where you wanted to go, as if it was happening now. So going back to like that time-space thing, time not being linear, is that what you mean? I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm just clarifying, because you kind of just summed up everything we just talked about in terms of, using nature to recognize that time's not linear, and by doing sort of, I'm going to call it fast forward gratitude, allowed you to get there. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not sharing that appropriately. And Jamie, when we come to an angry situation with the understanding that everyone has bad days, we remove our own feelings, amazing things can happen. 100%, and recognizing we have no idea what they're going through or what's going on, and to not take it personally, and to, from that place of love and gratitude, but also respecting boundaries. There's certain things I can understand that you're feeling this way, but I'm still not going to let you speak to me in that manner, so also still protecting yourself. Gotcha. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.